And welcome back to the Golf Intervention Podcast. Today, we're going to have a lively discussion about short game skill. It'll be exciting. It'll be mind-blowing.
Dare I say life-changing?
I keep saying that on the intro. You know, every now and again, when you teach golf for a living, I know you probably feel this too, because it's like every hour a new person rolls in and you help them with their golf and it's fun. But like, your wife is a nurse that saves lives.
Yes.
You know what I mean? There's a importance to that like helping somebody with their launch angle on their driver maybe doesn't carry the same weight. And so, no, this is not life changing.
No.
But it is fun. It is how people recreate. It is how people compete. Some people, it's their livelihood. And so, yeah, maybe not life changing. It's a strong term, but it is fun. And we're glad to be on with you on another episode of the Golf Intervention Podcast. So, short game skill. This will be fun. I should say we do this to mark the date and time, as we'll say like, oh yeah, yesterday Rory won the Masters. So I guess this week Wyndham Clark won the U.S. Open. Super cool, right? You and I are in a text thread with his coach, who used to be a Middle Atlantic PGA director of instruction, and he left, I don't know, 6-7 years ago probably, and now he's off at Cherry Hills. So pretty cool being on that thread where people are, congratulating him with working with a major champion. Pretty cool
awesome
stuff. So congratulations to Pat Coyner, his coach, and to Wyndham Clark for having exceptional short game. I did not watch. I have to say I was traveling. I just didn't get to see it, but apparently he won it with the short game. I mean, that was the thing. Today, we're going to continue our series on short game with a discussion on skill. And so we've discussed skill many, many times on this show. And we define it a certain way. And I think in the short game, we'll define it the same way with a slight little caveat, in which we'll describe a little bit later. But the essence of short game, in my opinion, I think I've said this on the show before, and if you're going to boil it down, short game skill in summation is learning to slow your ball down at the right time, right? And being able to predictably, I should probably say it that way.
Yeah.
To be able to predictably slow your ball down at the right time. That's the summation.
Yeah.
And if you break it into parts, which is what we try to do here, right? What does that actually mean? How do I do that? That's what we're going to talk about, right? That's where we're going to talk about the skill of short game today. And so when you picture short game, you can picture short game not going well, where the ball does not slow down at the right time. Most of the time, it's either like, if it's really not going well, it's like, oh, it went 2 feet because it was really bad, or it went zooming over the green. And that's a different visual that you get. The right and left dispersion, we talked about this with strategy last time, in short game, especially the closer you get to the green, not as big of a deal. But the long to short control is really what we're talking about as far as distance goes.
Yep.
And so what we want to do is break that down into the component parts of the skill, right? And talk about them, and what level golfer you are is generally going to lend to some things that you specifically probably need to work on.
Yep.
Everybody's a little bit different, but we're trying to make some generalizations here on a podcast to a bunch of listeners who we have no idea who you are. Most of you, but we just want to try to make some generalizations so that you can learn and say, yes, that is me. I am this level golfer. I shoot this score and I see this thing play out in my short game. And now I know what I need to do better, right? So the parts of skill that we talk about all the time, whether it applies to driving or approach shots, pitching the ball, chipping the ball, bunkers, there's a skill that we discuss, multiple skills that we discuss. And those skills are, I'm going to interview Rob Failes. Rob Failes, tell the listener what those skills are.
Yeah, so we say the 3 skills are arc location, which basically if you picture the club head's travel, at the bottom of the swing, it exhibits an arc type of shape, right? So locating where the bottom of that swing arc is in space is really the primary driver of your impact spot between the club and the ball. All right. So the arc location can be in place or out of place relative to really these three different planes of motion, really these 6 degrees of freedom. The bottom of the swing could be too high or too low. It could be too close to you or too far away from you. And it could be too close to the target or too far away from the target, right? So those 6 degrees of freedom is really what we're trying to manage and predict to get our contact between the golf ball and the face, right? So that's skill number 1. The variance between what is functional and dysfunctional when it comes to arc location is very, very small. And we like to say these skills are always variable in nature, right? So there is unfortunately no set it and forget it when it comes to these skills. And they occur on a bell curve every single time you play a shot, right? So 68% of the time, it's going to be a little above or below average, so kind of a little bit of a miss. 16% of the time is going to be exactly what you want, and then 16% of the time is going to be nowhere even close, right? So the arc location margin of error is typically about 1/2 an inch on either side as far as height. You have usually about 3/4 of an inch too far away from you, and about an inch and a half, inch and a quarter, inch and a half too close to you. So basically on the toe. And then the towards and the away from the target is when it starts to get very much an interesting conversation, because that has implications on what arc height is functional for that chosen proximity to target arc location. That's tricky, confusing maybe way to put it, but hopefully you're able to follow me there. And then it also has implications on the amount of loft you're going to have at impact relative to the direction the club's moving. So that leads us into our next skill, which is face to path. And now we typically talk about face to path in terms of basically the twisting of the shaft about itself, or the spinning of the grip, right? However you want to think of that, as being the primary driver of whether the face is to the right or to the left relative to the direction it's moving. That's going to give you your curvature of the golf ball, right? So if the face is close to the path, the ball's going to curve left. Face is open to the path, ball's going to curve right, assuming a center dish strike, right? Well, face to path is not just a right and left thing. It's also an up and down thing. So it's a 3-dimensional, it's a 3D vector that's created, that the ball is responding to at impact, right? Where also it is including the loft of the club. So basically, at impact, the club head can be moving up, it can be moving level, it can be moving down. But then relative to that direction the club head is moving up and down, you're going to have a certain amount of loft that surface area the ball is touching is pointed, right? So if the loft of the face is matching the direction it's moving, assuming a center dish strike, you're not going to get spin. So with pretty much all short game shots, you're going to have more loft, right? The face is pointed up relative to the direction it's moving. That's why you're going to get spin, backspin, right? And so that's managing how different the gap between the direction it's moving versus the amount of loft that you have. Again, this gets tricky because you start talking things about friction between the face and the ball and all sorts of stuff. But you can think of basically the wider that gap is between the face angle at impact from a loft perspective and the attack angle, the up and down movement of the club, the more potential for spin you have, right? The less of the difference you can think of as now almost more like a solid hit. You're getting more energy transferred to the golf ball, or I should say less energy lost at impact, and the ball is going to be going faster with less spin, right? So that's just kind of a taking the face to path that we talk about, that second skill, and then adding in the loft component to it and the attack angle component to it, right? So that is a skill. And then finally, the last skill that we talk about is club head speed. So just to recap, arc location, up and down, towards you and away from you, closer to the target, further from the target, face to path, not only the right and left, but the up and down in terms of the loft. And then finally, club head speed. Those would be our 3 skills. And they are very much micro. They're happening in the 1/2000th of a second of impact. And we cannot control them, but we can learn to get better at them and more predictable with them, for sure.
Yes. So the description there, kind of the visualization on that description, I would call like can you control your contacts? You're not chunking, blading, towing, shanking, generally, right? That's that, where's the arc location to let the good contact? The face to path, when we're talking about, basically what we're always talking about is where is the club head moving on its arc versus where is the face pointed, right? And in the big swing, so much of that curvature that you're dealing with is on the face to path. Like it's the horizontal movement of the club on its arc with the face, where it's the horizontal angle of the face, right? So what you're talking about here is adding in now a very important, vertical component, right? Where it's like the up and down movement of the club on the arc, which we call attack angle, and then what we call the dynamic loft or the loft, which is the vertical component of the face. This is where a lot of discussion in short game happens these days.
Yes.
I know I have my preferences, although I think you can do it a lot of ways. And then, obviously the energy, which you said, and then there's speed, but that's like assuming that I can A, hit it solidly, B, launch it the way I'm thinking, the right amount of spin and loft. And then through that, I probably produce some amount of energy to match that all up to, again, slow my ball down at the right time, right? That's it. I think that I want to reiterate something about skill, which you said to me, maybe even on the podcast, and I can't remember what it was, but this goes back to people obsessing over what golf swings look like, right? And looking at Instagram videos or YouTube, whatever, pictures of Wyndham Clark swinging, like Wyndham Clark's swing is so much better, right? Okay, what does that even mean, right? So the point is, skill is, you called it micro, right? You said skill is micro. Skill is happening in fractions of seconds. Skill is what you can't see is happening, essentially. Okay? So you can see the results of skill. Like you might even see where the divot is or where the ball hit on the face.
Yep.
You can see the swing, right? Someone's quote unquote a steep guy in the short game, or he's a shallow arc guy in the short game, whatever. And you can see that. Then you can see the ball flying through the air. You can see the shot that they produce. What you can't see is the skill. That's happening in your brain, and that's going athletic through your body.
Yep.
Right? I say that a lot to my students recently. It's like, skill is what you can't see. Like you said that, and I'm like, it's exactly what it is. And this is why people focus so much on what you can see. This is why the commentary that we see on the TV is all about what you can see.
Absolutely.
All about what you can see. But the point is, you can't actually see the things that have improved in Wyndham Clark's game. Okay? You can see the swing. You can't see the skill. And that's really what's producing the shot. So anyway, point being, when we have an episode on skill, I think it's really good to point out that's what you cannot see. Right? And as we get into the discussion about the different levels of player, I think it's important that we reiterate that a level 1 golfer, I call it level 0 to level 1 golfer, they could have the equivalent of the jump shot of Steph Curry when you look at it. But that doesn't matter.
No.
They're still going to hit it all over the place. Looking like, they could look like whoever, Wyndham Clark chipping it, but they're not going to have the skill yet because they've got to put in the reps to build that up. You were giving some measurements. I didn't catch everything you said there. 3/4 of an inch this way, or 1 inch this way, or half an inch this way. Think about how hard it is to repeat that. And if you tried to do that consciously, you'd have a really
you can't
doing
it.
You can't do it, right? But you can practice it the way that the way that you talk about, right?
Get more predictable.
Can I practice do that to gain some parameter and some feel on that? So as we go into level 1 golfer, what is that skill? What does that skill look like, other than it's frightening sometimes? I'm not picking on you level 1 golfers, but I'm just saying. That being said, I had somebody I teach today, 18 handicap. Okay, giving it a couple lessons, and I'm watching him hit he plays this forward tees, hits 250-yard drives. His miss is like a little push, just drawing these like missile rocket drives. And I'm like, what's your handicap? He's like 18.7. I'm like,
oh boy.
I'm like, what? And I was so confused. And he was like, I think I'll lose 8 to 10 shots around in my short game. I said, could we do that next?
Yeah.
He's like, yeah, we'll definitely do that next time. So anyway, I'll keep you updated on that. But I think there's different strokes for different folks,
Yeah.
kind of thing. Like, not everybody's the same.
What's so funny, but so many level one golfers just don't care about their putting and short game. They're like, you know what? I don't really care what I shoot. I just want to hit the ball better. I just don't want to get clowned on by my playing partners for hitting irons off the tee. I'm like, I get it, dude. I absolutely get it.
Yeah, I think it's funny. People play for different reasons. Correct. We're going to have some fun with it. I'll help coach you up. That's why you hire a golf performance consultant, right? We're going to help. But I totally agree with you. So as we look at level one, back to level one golfer, it's easy to visualize what they're doing wrong when you picture their shot pattern, right? But give us a sense of the skill and what you think is the biggest focus areas there.
Yeah, so I think a good way to visualize this is imagine you have a level one golfer who hits 100 short game shots, just like standard, like a 15 to 20 yard little pitch, right? What is that scatter plot of shots likely to look like? And what I would say is that for almost all level one, like every single level one golfer, that dispersion is going to be 4-5x longer front to back than it is right to left. And so why is that the case? Why is the long to short dispersion so incredibly huge? It's likely not face the path. All right. It's also likely not clubhead speed. You're not going to see their clubhead speed vary much as that dispersion varies from shot to shot to shot to shot. What is changing is the ball speed, which changes the most for them due to arc location variability. Right. So it's going to be this is where everyone's different. I see plenty of level one golfers who manage the arc height okay, but the proximity of the bottom of the swing arc toward away from them is not as predictable, right? So they're hitting it off the heel and the toe quite a bit. So again, everyone is different. I would say I more often see arc height issues where the bottom of the swing is either too high or too low for these golfers. So think about what that might look like. Well, if the bottom of the swing arc, like I said earlier, is more than a half an inch higher than like the level of the grass, if you will, you're going to be basically hitting it in the leading edge of the club, which doesn't have loft, and that golf ball is going screaming over the green. You'd be surprised how slow you can swing your wedge, and if it hits on the front edge of the club, that thing's going over the green. All right? And vice versa. Again, sometimes depending on the playing conditions, but if the bottom of the swing arc is more than, say, a half an inch lower than the grass, so as we start to get to 3/4 to an inch lower, that's when we're getting meaningful ground contact prior to ball contact. And depending on the conditions, it's either going to bounce into it and you're going to hit leading edge again, this thing's screaming off the green, or you're going to get, the club's going to essentially dig and you're going to get a massive slowdown in the club, and you're going to get too much stuff between the club and the ball, and that ball's going to come out very, very slowly, right? So it's managing the arc height for level one golfers that we're primarily looking at. And then in terms of how we're training that, I would still say we would start with awareness first, right? So many golfers aren't aware of just the fact that the bottom of the swing is an arc, right? And so can you feel the weight of the club head as it's swinging in space back and forth? And then can you just start to play around with where the bottom of the swing arc is located? Can you go a little bit higher? Can you go a little bit lower and experience how that changes the sound and the feel and the visual of what the ball is doing against the club, right? And then can you also use those ends of the spectrum as reference points to teach you where the middle is, right? So that'd be our differential training idea. That would be on the front end of every level one golfer's practice plan, which would be awareness of the bottom of the swing arc. Can you then change it? Can you adapt it differently? And then can you start to predict, hey, for this ball position, because every shot you're going to get is different. The ball's going to be a little above your feet, a little bit below your feet, a little bit on downhill lie, a little bit on uphill lie. For this new shot that you've never seen before, can you feel, again, you're making a feel prediction. You shouldn't really know how you're making the change. That's the part, it's exactly what we said earlier. This is stuff you can't see. It's my preference actually that golfers can't describe with their words how they're changing it. Because just think, like, what are all the things in your body that could possibly make up the difference of a half an inch? Your ankles, your knees, your hips, your spine, your shoulders, your elbows, this could be anything. So it's more about your awareness and the external focus of the weight of the club head. And then are you making a field prediction and then able to identify, hey, was it in my dispersion, right? Was it close? And if it was off, was it either too high or too low, too close to you or too far from you? And then once you're able to detect a pattern of that, can you then make a little bit of an adjustment to get it kind of back inside your dispersion?
I think the key term you just used was awareness.
Yeah.
You'll see this, I would say mainly in level 1 golfer, but it can infiltrate level 2 golfer at times too, which is when they hit a shot over the green because they didn't control the arc height well, right? So you picture the shot that's like not crazy hit poorly, but just like a little bit high on the ball, right?
Mm-hmm.
And it goes, over, right? Or just 20 feet, 30 feet too far. They'll go, I hit it too hard. Right? Or they catch it a little heavy and it's, I didn't hit it hard enough.
Exactly.
I didn't hit it hard enough. It's funny that they use the term hard too. Like that's interesting. Like I'm hitting.
Where did that? Yeah, exactly.
So what I train them to do is I say, here's what I want you to do when you assess the shots that you hit. Your first level assessment is, did the contact feel, to your point about the awareness that we're training, did it feel right?
Yeah, in your dispersion, right? Was it in the ballpark? Yeah.
Correct. Did it feel right? Second thing is going to be, did I hit it kind of the right height that I was looking for? Okay, which we'll get to, right? But that part. And then third would be, if I got those two right and I hit it too short or too long, then I probably either I didn't have the right club or I didn't have the right energy. And then I'm just trying to figure that out, right? So blaming everything on I swung too hard or not hard enough is something you see a ton.
Yes.
Right? Because they haven't developed the awareness of what a good strike feels like, to be quite honest. I think that's just what it is. And so training that becomes absolutely imperative, right? And when you're in a lesson, you and I do this every day. It's like when they experience what it's really supposed to feel like, it's like, what?
Oh,
like, what was that thing? Like, what did I just do? It's not like a little different.
Yeah.
It's mind-blowingly different. Like, whoa.
Yeah.
And that ball just spun and it sat down softly and it went the distance that I thought it would. I always felt like if you can get those first two parts of the equation right for almost everybody, the energy piece becomes really pretty natural, right? Yeah. But if I cannot make good contact and I cannot get the launch to be consistent, then I'm never going to control the distance, right? So don't think of it as a distance control issue, right? Yeah. Think of it as a contact and launch issue. Distance control will come naturally that way. At least that's the way I look at it.
Yeah.
For most people.
Yeah.
Super good. Agree. So level 1 golf. What else would level 1 golfer?
Yeah. So aside from just the skilled training of it, the differential training that we outline, and there's like different levels of differential training that we can talk about maybe in later series. What are some ways for level 1 golfers that we help with that arc location? And this might start to bleed into swing. I'm sure we're going to probably get into a little bit of this next episode when we talk about short game swing stuff. And this harkens back to strategy is like, well, those metrics I shared with you, like, hey, half an inch high and low, that's true for a wedge, like 56 or 58 or 60 degree wedge. Soon as you start to go down in loft, well, guess what? That margin starts to increase a little bit, right? So now if I go down to like a 9 iron, or in most sets now, pitching wedge, right? I can probably go a little more. I could probably go like 3/4 of an inch high and low and probably still be okay because of the fact that now that leading edge relative to where the sweet spot is, right, is further down and further back, further away from the ball. I think you said this maybe in one of our first lessons, our first podcast, and I really like the way you described it. Is like the leading edge just gets further from the ball. The sweet spot gets closer to the ball, right?
Correct.
So as you go down in loft, and then ultimately, that's why we say for level 1 golfers, like putting is oftentimes a great strategy because there's so much less spin loft, because there's so little loft relative to the direction the club's moving, you're going to get quite a bit of ball speed. So the size of swing required is going to come down. And the variability in the ball speed from hitting it high on the face versus low on the face is minimal. Right? It's there, it's different, but it's not different enough for you to start missing greens because of it. Whereas with a wedge, if you're half an inch high or low, you're missing a green. Whereas with a putter, if you're half an inch high or low, yeah, it's not coming out exactly what you want, but you're probably still on the green. And by the way, same way with like putting a hybrid, which I think can be great sometimes. Putting a fairway wood can be great sometimes. Just delivering less loft in general. And we're going to talk about some of our swing preferences that reduce loft in general, that make that arc height stuff a little bit more manageable, because there is some skill to the skill/technique. That's where kind of the swing technique and the skill kind of get coupled when we talk about changing where the bottom of the swing arc is, either closer to the target or further from the target. But just know, like for a level 1 golfer, for many, many, many cases, like choosing a club that gives you a little more margin for error oftentimes can be helpful with some of that stuff.
Yeah. Go back and listen to strategy episode, short game, if you haven't yet, right? So yeah, well said. Level 1 golfer is the one that just has a long way to go to develop skill, right? If you've gotten to level 2, especially level 3, obviously level 4, like tour player, you have skill. You know, level 1, it's maybe not there.
Right. And that's why we always start with arc location first for every level of the game. Like for driver, irons, right? For everything, we're starting with arc location. Yeah.
And I use that example of like the Steph Curry jump shot, because it's like I can stand there and create a Steph Curry looking jump shot that you could look at from across the gym and be like, wow, that's great technique. Yeah. You know? And maybe make none of them.
Yeah.
Right? Because I haven't shot basketball in 25 years probably. So the skill that even whatever I used to have isn't there anymore, probably. It's probably buried. You know, so you have to develop it. It takes time and it takes work. Yeah. And your point that you made a little while ago, and we'll move on to level 2 here in a second, but we tend to spend a lot of time in level 1. It's like, probably, you know, because it's the biggest room for growth, and we spend a lot of time describing what we're discussing for the topic. But they want to hit the ball better. That's essentially the story. They want to hit the ball better with the full swing, and they darn well should, to be able to get in the game and play it. Right? Especially if you're not even keeping score, or you're not competing, you're not keeping a handicap, and you're like comfortable. Hey, if a 3 or 4 putt takes me 2 chips, as long as I'm keeping up, I'm happy. Keeping up with the gals, keeping up with the guys, playing with my son, playing with my dad, like whatever it is. But you never get to that next level until you start really counting your score and really starting to understand, like, I need to train these skills or I will never get better at this game. And also in your mind, realize that there's a lot you cannot see. So when you play with other golfers who say, every time you hit a bad shot, you did this, and this, they're actually wrong. Yeah. Like they're actually wrong. There could be things they've seen, but a lot of it is in what they cannot see. Right. And so, oh, you moved your head. Oh, you lifted up. Oh, you did this. Like maybe, but probably not.
Right.
Right. You just don't have any skill yet. And it's okay as that level 1 golfer to just be like, in your mind, say, I don't have the skill. I'm working on it. On it. I don't need advice on every shot I hit. I'm doing the best I can.
We need to do a whole episode on how to handle that.
We're going to do an episode. I think there's some episode topics, I was thinking about this today, that are just not quite main feed worthy. But are really relevant. So maybe we start feeding those to the Substack. Yeah. You know, not even behind the paywall part of it, which is, here's a bonus episode. Go check it out on the Sub. It's going to be 20 minutes on being a good golf mentor for your friends. Or, one I've seen recently is some real issues at club fitting that we're just going to have to discuss at some point. That's just killing people. And actually really good golfers are getting struck with this a lot. So that's a teaser we'll talk about at some point. But anyway, anything else with level 1?
No, like we said, like it's kind of starts and ends with arc location a lot of the times. I still will train face to path, so don't get me wrong. A lot of that for them is club selection, as we said earlier. And then obviously still train speed, but a lot of times it's going to be like more macro changes in speed. Hey, can you give it not enough to where it doesn't get to the green? Can you give it too much to where it goes over the green? Then can you give me one in between where it's just somewhere, anywhere on the green, right? So we're in many ways, like Brian Bailey used this analogy I really liked, where you think of a sculpture, right? So like the first thing for level one golfers, you got to knock off the biggest pieces of the sculpture first, which is going to be arc location for many cases. Yeah. And like you said, you start to manage arc location, you start to play around with different club selection. Like a lot of like the energy stuff does come just through experience. A decent bit of it comes just through experience. But I do still think level one golfers need to have a good frame of reference for how they're managing speed. Yeah. Maybe we'll get into that with level 2 and level 3.
How often do you take a player who's never golfed, like an adult golfer, never really played, like I'm a brand new golfer, put them 4 or 5 feet from the hole with a putter in their hand and just say, hit it and roll it in the hole. And they hit it 40 feet.
Yes. Yeah.
Okay. What would you expect?
Right.
Like
There's
they
no
have
frame of reference.
Yeah. It goes 30, 40 feet.
Yeah.
For a putt that was 3 or 4 or 5 feet.
The next one typically doesn't.
The next one typically doesn't. So that they start getting right. And on putting, it's like, because the impact for what you just said a little while ago.
Yes, that's a great analogy.
Much easier.
That's a great analogy.
You just start to get better and better.
Yeah,
and better,
I love that analogy. That's all.
So that's a visual I want you all to take. If you are a golf mentor with someone, you should take that role very seriously, right? People that are trying to learn golf, whether it's kids or adults, they need a coach and they need a mentor, at least one. And a lot of times it's like the little kid's dad or mom that they play with, or grandfather or whatever. But sometimes it's just a friend of yours who you play tennis with, or pickleball, is trying to pick the game up, and they don't have a husband that plays or a wife that plays or whatever. And they need someone to help them get around, make a tee time, know where to stand, know what, and then have them get little bits of encouragement and help along the way. And that role is very important. Okay, let's move on to level 2 golfer showcase skill.
So entry level 2, we always say like level 1 is pretty much from complete beginner all the way to averaging 88. All right. And so once you get lower than 88, let's say you're an 87 average, you're pretty much still a level 1 golfer. You're just like barely into level 2. Arc location is still going to be a premium. All right. So once you get pretty much down into the middle of level 2, that's when it starts to flip a little bit in terms of, okay, arc location is still going to be the number one thing to manage. It's never not, I will say that. But in terms of how much time you're spending on each skill, that's when I would say that increasing the time spent on speed is going to go up. And then starting to be a little bit more strategic in terms of how you're managing the loft. The face to path, aka the spin loft skill, is so really all 3 of them, really in the middle of level 2, they're all very equal importance. And then once you get to the end of level 2, again, arc location is still a premium, but now you're spending proportionally probably more time now on speed and launch spin type stuff.
Right, sure. Because we talked about in the last episode how as you're improving through level 2, you've got to start hitting the ball closer to the hole more often.
Correct. 12 feet
right?
in, it becomes the...
Correct. Yeah. It's not about getting it on the green. It's not about making 3, every time you're inside 30 yards. You have to start getting up and down every now and again and stop giving away shots.
Right.
Where you're missing the green or even putting yourself in worse locations than you were when you started. You cannot progress through level 2. And that's kind of the visual we're trying to give you, is like, here I am as someone that's, under bogey golf and trying to get level 2 is a big level, right? Like we talk about that going all the way down to almost basically scratch golfer, which is like shooting 75 or 6 on average, right? Yeah. So you're going like way down. And so you got to start making a lot of pars.
Yeah.
Right. And so by if you're going to progress all the way to level 3, you've got to make tons of pars. Right. And that is going to require you to get the ball up and down at times, and especially not make too many double bogeys when you're inside 30 yards or inside 40 from the hole. So controlling that part that you were just talking about, the heights of the shot and the spin, that's where it starts to get kind of fun, in my opinion, right? Isn't that the fun part of shot game?
Agreed.
So what do you when you've got that player and you're really
Mhm.
trying to dial them in, what are you thinking about skill wise? Like how do you
Yeah.
get them working on it?
So managing launch and spin, I still, for these golfers, don't think club choice is off the table. Like really all the way down into, again, you're averaging end of level 2, you're averaging 77, 76. You're basically scratch. I still see plenty of scratch players who switch up clubs a decent amount around the green, right? So you're going to have a high option, you're going to have a mid option, and you're going to maybe have a low option, right? So now you're landing it on the green more often, because really think of it like club selection for level 1 golfers is more about managing arc location. Like, hey, how do I change the club to manage the contact against the ball in the face? Whereas with level 2, you're now more changing the club selection more to get the ball closer to the hole. So, hey, if the pin's in the back of the green, well, that might behoove you to choose something a little bit less lofted, so you're able to land it in a similar place and have it kind of skid and kind of scoot back to the back of the green. Whereas with a middle pin, maybe you land it in a similar spot with a little bit more height, so maybe your mid option. And then for a front pin, that's when maybe you go for the high option, understanding that you have, again, within your dispersion, 12 feet beyond the hole to stop it. So you don't have to stop it right on the flag. We just need something a little bit higher than stock to be able to land it on the green and then keep it from rolling more than 12 feet beyond the flag is really what I take a look at. So club selection is on the table. For plenty of level 2 golfers, I go ahead and switch them into, hey, let's choose a wedge like our 58. Like I love 58-degree wedges for a lot of these golfers. And let's learn how to manipulate setup variables to give us something a little bit lower, something a little bit more mid, and then something a little bit higher, right? So for these level 2 golfers, I like for them to have like really 3 main shots. And you'd be surprised that carries them very, very far as short game goes. It's really into level 3 and into level 4 where you got to have almost the entire spectrum of those shots to be able to pick a very specific launch and spin for this specific shot, because you're trying to get it inside 6 feet. But for these level 2 golfers, I just think having a very general lower than stock, a little higher than stock, I think is the way to go for a lot of them.
There's a shot I've been working with a lot of my players in this level from more like the 30 yard, like outside the right off the green short game area. And, we don't use the term on this. We don't talk about chipping versus pitching. Or we don't really, it's really confusing to do that because people will call things different things. Like even just watching golf telecasts, you'll see someone hit a pitch shot and they'll be like, oh, you chipped that really well. And you're thinking like, okay, I know it's a term, and like it's almost like everything's a chip in a way, and like pitching doesn't exist anymore. But anyway, chipping to me is the low shot, and the pitch is the high shot. So it doesn't matter to me how much it rolls or anything like that. It's just a trajectory thing. So in level 1, we work hard with those golfers on what we call a chip and run shot, like with that middle iron, 8 iron, something like that. They can land short of the green and it can roll on from 20 or 30 yards or whatever. And in the level 2, I've been working a lot with like a gap wedge or pitching wedge and getting them to hit a pitch and run shot, which I think has like been a lost art for whatever reason. A lot of the pitch shots you see have a lot of height and spin to them. Like everybody's using 60-degree wedge. When I was a kid, the 60-degree wedge was an anomaly. You didn't really have it. Like Phil Mickelson started using a 60. Everybody wanted to use a 60. But previous to that, everybody used 56-degree clubs. Like, that's just what it was. And so we hit these shots we call pitch and runs where it would land, like I could land it on the front of the green, from 40 yards and it would roll 10 or 15 yards, right? It was always landed on the green. So it had some middle trajectory to it, basically, without a ton of spin, and then it could roll. It's a really easy shot. Like it's not it's not. Anyway, so the skill of being able to change the trajectory of it using the different clubs, controlling my speed, and then having these skills come out to produce these shots is like, you got to just kind of gain control of that in level 2 and really be able to see what you're trying to do and be able to change it, right? I want to hit it higher, but roll it a little bit more. I want to hit it higher, but stop it a little bit faster. I want to hit it short of the green and roll it on. I want to hit it on the green and stop it. There's all these things that you start to play with. And to your point, you have this variance of almost like quadrants of the green still. right? Because if you're talking 12 feet, you're talking 24-foot radius circle,
Yes.
right? That's a big area. 24-foot radius is a huge
Yes.
area, right? It could be a third of a green, right? Almost a half of a green. But as you get into level 3, you start making that like a lot smaller. And you start looking at trying to hit it inside of 6 feet more often. Whoa, that circle shrinks in a hurry. And so that level 2 is a fun level to really work on. I see a lot of, like, if I was making a general statement, I would be like, yes, the level 2 golfer that really wants to improve should have a baseline of full swing abilities and then just start grinding out that short game, like really trying to get it where it's a little bit better. And I think that really helps the full game anyway, right? Because a lot of that stuff that you're doing really helps you learn skill of arc height control or whatever, which is arc location.
Yeah, those 3 skills are universal.
They're universal, but working on short game, it really does help infiltrate the other pieces of the
I definitely agree with that. Yeah.
What else for level 2 golfer, Rob Failes?
So we'll go ahead and get into speed. I think for certainly end of level 2, this is going to be, for again, every golfer is different. That's the thing. For some golfers, I put more of a premium on the face to path, aka the spin loft stuff, and then for some, it's going to be more of the speed, and then ultimately, it's going to be a combination of both. But the biggest thing for speed that I tend to see is when golfers change the rhythm of their swing to try to change speed. And that's the big thing is I do not want the freedom of the swing changing much. I don't want the rhythm of the swing changing much to change speed, right? Which, what does that mean? Well, again, if we just talk about the club and the amount of time the club is taking in the backswing relative to the entire downswing and follow through, good rhythm would be roughly symmetrical, right? So if it's taking a 3-syllable amount of time going back, it's taking about a 3-syllable amount of time coming down in the entire follow through. So when golfers struggle with speed, you can think of the club rhythm starting to change, right? So they might take it back still with 3-syllable, but to try to hit it further, they'll go down to a 2 or a 1-syllable coming down.
1.
Yes, right? And the problem with that is a lot of times you don't train a ton of arc location with that rhythm. You don't train a ton of face to path with that rhythm. So the club might be going faster, but the other skills start to be compromised because you're changing the rhythm that much. And so, yeah, you might get more club head speed, but you might not get the ball speed you're looking for, right? And then vice versa. Let's say you give it a same 3-syllable going back, but you're like, oh gosh, I got way too much energy in the system. What do I need to do? And then they go to a 4 or a 5-syllable coming down. Right. So it takes way too much time. They slow things down a ton going forward. Right. And then again, you're going to see variances in that arc location big time. Usually is the arc location and plenty of times face to path stuff as well that get compromised when you're trying to change the rhythm. So it's just how you walk. We want the arms in the club swinging freely. And then we want a very sort of symmetrical rhythm in terms of the energy that you're putting into the backswing relative to what you're doing coming down. That would be my main thing. So keeping the time the same is generally like a nice thing to try to do. Can I keep the time the same, but then scale the size of the swing? And then naturally when the swing gets bigger with the same time, by definition, it's going faster. So you're changing the speed, but you're doing it in a much more predictable way in terms of managing the other skills. Right? So that would be my strong preference for how we manage speed.
I think that rhythm so much lends to both a repeatability in contact and also a repeatability in the face or whichever part of the face you're talking about, both face angle, horizontal, face angle, vertical, being the most predictable, right? To your point, it's so hard to be predictable with the club face because it rotates so much. In the short game, a little less, and probably a lot less than in the big swing, but it's still rotating. And it's like to be somewhat predictable is difficult. And if the rhythm isn't right, it's just almost darn near impossible.
Yeah, agreed.
Which is why I think that when you look at a golf, again, the things that you can see, rhythm you can see, right? And when you watch the best players, and I'm not talking country club golfers, I'm talking really good players, tour players, their rhythm is so, like, everybody goes, oh, it's a beautiful swing. What do they watch it? We love symmetry. We're attracted to symmetry, right? So when we see something that is symmetrical, we think it's beautiful. Does anybody describe Cam Young's swing as beautiful? Not really, because it's kind of a funny rhythm, right?
Yeah.
I'm not making fun. What an amazing golfer.
Yeah.
Like, there's nothing wrong with his rhythm. I'm just saying it's not necessarily symmetrical. And so he doesn't get that, like, oh,
Yeah.
he's got a beautiful swing, right? Whereas when you watch Rory, who's very symmetrical, it's like, whoa, like, that's a gorgeous golf swing. So again, it's stuff that you can see.
Yes.
We love symmetry. Our eye is attracted to symmetry. So that's why, that's a human trait. So, but for us to make consistent contact at the bottom of the arc and have some chance of delivering the face in a predictable way, we have to have rhythm. We have to have that balance and that symmetry that you're talking about. Period. Full stop. Don't try to argue with me about that, people. Okay?
No arguments here.
Just saying.
This isn't going to be an echo chamber of that, that's for sure.
No, 100%. 100%, Rob.
All right, are we ready for level 3?
Yeah, it's getting late for me
Yeah,
here
it's
on the
getting-
East Coast.
All right, we can make this simple. They do all the same stuff. They just better.
They just do
They
it
just do it
better.
better.
They just do it better.
I'm joking, but I'm not joking. They just do it better.
They do everything better. And I
Yeah.
would say this, that as you get to the level that, like, you and I are with short game, which is pretty dang high level, right? It actually looks more simple in a lot of ways because our control of it is so good. And it's what you see with the best players. They control the contact in the face and the spin so well that they're basically just hitting kind of one thing over and over again and then just adapting it a little bit to the situations, right? And so that's what we're talking about in strategy. You've got to adapt to the situation, but to make a good prediction. But the fact of the matter is, it's not typically played with tons of different clubs.
It's not.
Typically
Very
played with
one-dimensional.
tons of different trajectories. It's like you hit a lot of low spinners that just put the brakes on by the hole, and that's like the end of the story.
Right.
And even the ones that you see in extreme situations, like, again, I didn't get to see the US Open because I was driving, but when you watch a major championship at a venue like Shinnecock, you're going to see the ball rolling across greens more, but that's just because there's tons of slope, right? So they're still playing shots that spin. They just don't stop as quickly, right? So it's still the same stuff over and over again. But yeah, it almost looks more straightforward with really good players in 3 and 4, right? It just does. But to your point, you just can't miss.
Yeah.
So you don't miss, right? You just can't miss, so you don't miss. And then it's like there is some pieces of that puzzle that, creativity and all this stuff that does play a role. It's undefinable. But it's like it's really about being able to control the ball and visualize and execute and predict, right? The strategy piece is still huge.
Correct. It's the thing that separates the level 3 golfer is their ability to predict prior to what's the speed of the ball coming out of this particular lie? What's the spin of the golf ball coming out of this particular lie? When the ball lands on the green, how is the slope of the green going to kick it? And then when it's rolling across the green, how is the slope that it's rolling across going to affect it? And not only are they expert readers of the situation when it comes to like the lies of the slope and the weather conditions stuff, but then they also have full range of those 3 skills to be able to call upon the specific shot that they're trying to hit to get it within 6 feet. Because like you said, when you go from 12 feet to 6 feet, now the requirements start to shrink considerably. Like there starts to become a much smaller window of the direction you can start it. And that launch, spin, speed combo in terms of how you can stop it to get it within 6 feet. So it starts to become more of like a putt sort of mentality for them in terms of stopping the golf ball within 6 feet. They have to bring those skills up while also bringing their prediction process up with it. And that's typically the thing that is going to separate those level 3 golfers. Yes, they do all the skills better, but talking about our strategy episode from our last one, is that's the stuff that typically is going to accelerate their short game performance the most.
And so when you're practicing to try to get to level 3, it's just like you said, it's a differential training. It's the acquiring of being able to really control I want to say the energy and speed control becomes the bigger story.
Yeah.
Like, because if you're hitting that basic crispy little short game shot, the trajectories are pretty similar. You're making slight adjustments to face angle and stuff to just change the trajectory a little bit, but it's really about how much energy you're putting into that thing and predicting where it's going to land and what it's going to do. So when you practice the short game, in my opinion, the better you get, the more you're working on being able to land the ball exactly where you want to land the ball in a predictive way, time after time. And so your short game practice can be pretty varied from a random standpoint, right? Like really working on a lot of different situations. Whereas level 1 golfers are kind of like, I've got to just acquire skill, so I got to get some reps in. Like I got to stand in a spot and kind of
figure this stuff out, right? Yeah, absolutely.
So you can see how it works through your practice as you go from level 1 to level 2 to level 3. You're probably more varied in level 3 and probably more repeated in level 1, so to speak, more blocked practice style where it's, shot after shot, kind of from the say, like hoping to hit one good and then hoping to hit the next one good, and not hitting 100 in a row, but at least 5, maybe 10 in a spot, and then moving to slightly different spot and trying something else. But when you get to level 3, it's a lot of shots. Give me one chance at this thing and see what I can do. And if I don't do it quite right, hit another one, but then I'm moving to a new spot and I'm working on that. A lot more, in my opinion, competitive style practice or challenge yourself, putting some competition in your practice in level 3. And as you're working through level 2 to level 3, I gotta hit 9 balls from 9 locations around the screen and get 7 of them within 10 feet, but whatever you pick your number, 12 feet, 6 feet, 8 feet, whatever you want to do, just like kind of pick a number. And knowing that, if you want to be really good, 6 feet, the number, if you want to be a little bit nice to yourself, not everyone, but, say 7 out of 10, like give yourself a number to do and work your way through that. And then if you don't do it again. Yep. And then that way you're working through a little bit. This is also probably the level where you're practicing with the golf ball that you play with as often as you can.
Yes.
Okay, does that matter to level 1 golfer? Probably not that much. Does it matter to level 3 and level 4 golfer?
Yes.
1,000,000%. Does that even make sense? 1,000,000%? I'm saying it, 1,000,000%. Do you want to get out there if you play Pro V1 and have a little bag of Pro V1s to chip with? You want to be able to do that.
This is where having a brush and a towel in your practice and making sure that the friction you're getting is consistent, that stuff matters for level 3, level 4 golfers.
It's very interesting
kind of stuff.
Yeah, you're crazy. I ran a practice facility for tour players for 10 years, and they literally have a brush. I would say, I don't know what percent, a very high percent, either them or their caddy, have the brush clipped to their pant, basically to their belt loop.
Yep.
And every shot they hit in the short game, at least every couple, they're scraping the grooves out. Why? Because friction matters, and we didn't get into that today. That's, again, a pretty niche topic.
Yeah, that's
but
more
it sounds
strategies.
to me like we're developing some nice topics maybe for the Substack.
Yeah.
Where we can do a couple niche episodes on maybe friction or differential training in the short game. We mentioned a couple topics that probably wouldn't be as interesting for the main feed, but would probably be pretty good for the Substack. So, yeah,
for sure.
You and I will discuss.
We will.
Anything else for these great golfers that you want to add, Rob Failes?
I think we hit on it.
Man, we nailed it. Well, I thank you for being on with me tonight, Rob.
Yep, thank you.
That was really fun for me.
Always is.
And hope you have a great week. I got a busy week teaching this week.
Busy week, man. Yep, if the weather can hold up.
Is it supposed to be rainy?
Yeah, it's supposed to be kind of spotty this week, but we'll see. We've got some indoor options, so it's all good.
Yeah. We got some rain today, which we needed desperately.
Yeah, us too.
All right, Rob Failes, unless there's anything else you'd like to add, any sage words of advice for our listeners?
No, man, we hit on it. We'll cover the swing stuff. The swing stuff is going to be a very fun episode when we talk about short game.
Yeah.
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 Yeah. It's
Let's
gonna be
get
good.
Let's get controversial.
Oh, it might get, yeah,
Let's
might get
go.
heated.
Yeah, let's get. We should take. Here's what we should do. We should pick
And we should argue with
pick a
ourselves on
topic.
purpose. Yeah.
Correct.
Yeah.
In case you didn't know that there's this big argument about the short game, steep versus shallow, right? And so I'm gonna make Robbie be shallow, and I'm gonna be steep.
Let's do it.
We'll pretend like we don't like each other.
Yeah, that'd be
And
fun.
we'll argue both sides of the equation. All right, Rob.
All right.
That was fun, man. Hope you have a great
Yes,
week.
sir.
And
great
thank
week.
you for tuning in to another episode of the Golf Intervention Podcast. We'll check you next time with short game swing stuff. So cool.
Cheers.